Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Kneon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And we're going to talk about how Sony wants to rule the anime world. We were actually going to do a video on this the other day, and we didn't get around to it, and now there's more movement where Sony is trying to team up with some other entities to basically own anime and manga lock, stock, and barrel.
Okay.
You know, so let's talk about that before we get into it. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We're over 174,000 subs. We do talk about anime, we talk about animation, we talk about video games, we talk about comics, whatever interests us that day. And this is kind of interesting because this ties into the unified theory of everything, which is Sony, you know, they bought Crunchyroll. They paid like $1 billion for Crunchyroll. I think they overpaid for it.
That's how much they paid for Crunchyroll?
Yeah. It's like $1.1 billion.
They did overpay. Anyway.
And they want to start pushing anime on their video game platforms. Now, here's what's interesting. This is on Wall Street Journal yesterday. They're like, Sony's on top of the world. Now they're going to go after anime and music. This is yesterday, but the PlayStation brand in Japan is not doing well. PlayStation in Japan is failing. PlayStation 5 is failing.
Well, that's yes and no, because they were saying that there was a big demand for it, and they were having trouble with the stores because people wanted it really bad.
Yeah,
so I've heard both ways.
Well,
if I'm being honest.
Depends on who you ask, because the PlayStation sales overall were down, the lowest since 1994, and the brand has been declining steadily. Nintendo's been picking up a lot of the slack, and then
it's just you have to take everything into context.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I just saw articles. They were like, "Oh, there's such demand for it."
I mean, the fact that people couldn't get it, yeah. And look, disclaimer, before people say that we're like a bunch of Sony haters, we actually bought a PlayStation 5.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, Geeky got one. She pre-ordered it as soon as she could. We wound up getting one from Target, and it's a pretty good machine, you know. But I'm not real keen on Sony's censorship. And that concerns me a lot, which is why I'm concerned when they talked about how they want to basically own the anime industry at this point, because, you know, we're seeing a lot of anime get censored, and, you know, it's becoming a bigger and bigger issue. And I'm worried if Sony basically becomes the only game in town, no pun intended, that everything's going to be censored.
Yeah.
And sanitized for Western audiences. But yeah, PlayStation kind of struggling. Depending on who you ask in Japan. But this article came out, and this is the one we were originally going to cover a couple of weeks ago. Financial Times said that Japan's anime goes global, and Sony's new weapon is anime to take on Netflix.
Which is funny, because that's what Disney's trying to do, too, it seems like.
Yeah, except Disney's walking away from animation. Like, they're not really...
But they are trying to bring in anime and manga for the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah. Because they know that's where it's at. I mean, we talk about comic sales and manga sales eclipse comic book sales. I mean, it's insane. We're talking just digital manga sales are like 3 times the entire North American comic book industry, right? So what gets us, though, is that they're starting to work more with, I guess, Western companies. And they said that, you know, a critical inflection point here is more than half of anime revenue is generated outside of Japan. And it's about to be crossed. Corporate Japan's frenetic last decade of outbound M&A acknowledges and a shrinking domestic market growth must come from overseas. Anime is now tentatively doing the same. So they're talking about how Netflix, Amazon Prime, and other streaming services are picking up. And we're seeing Netflix, you know, bankroll a lot of this anime.
You said about Sony and censorship?
Yeah.
But Crunchyroll had that chick on there that was trying to tell Japan how they should, you know, make their anime so it was better for Western audiences.
Yeah, that's something that keeps coming up. And then, you know, there was an article we covered before talking about Netflix and how basically any animation, they're calling it anime at Netflix. Even if it's CG, even if it looks Western, you know, or it's CG and Western, they're calling it anime. So everything's anime now because that's a buzzword. But there's a lot of, you know, like outside forces because, you know, China is trying to push into, Tencent's trying to push into anime more. They're trying to make their own stuff. So then, you know, of course, money's the big factor. You know, they talk about Demon Slayer, and Demon Slayer is now the highest grossing movie in Japan's history.
So how much of that is you know, pushing this forward?
Right. I can guarantee you that's a big motivator right now is like, oh, Demon Slayer made a ton of money, and that was a Sony thing. That's Aniplex. So they're like, we want more of that, especially if...
I do want more of that.
Especially if the PlayStation sales are down in Japan, they have to make it up somewhere. So, you know, they bought Crunchyroll, and $1.175 billion.
Overpaid.
Yeah, they did, for sure. Now, here's where it starts to get interesting. Some of their alliances. So not only did they buy Crunchyroll, but now Kadokawa is forming an alliance with Sony. They're one of the largest publishers of manga. They do have a lot of huge properties out there. Anime News Network had this. Said media company Kadokawa Corporation announced on Thursday in its third quarter financial results, it has formed a capital alliance with Cyber Agent and Sony to strengthen its game and animation businesses. The company plans to use the alliance to foster, develop, and acquire new IPs. So what we're seeing here is Sony's putting the pieces in place to basically be the one-stop shop for anime. Mm-hmm. And I gotta wonder, what the end game of this is going to be if they basically wind up running everything.
Yeah.
And they're going to run it according to their sensibilities, and then they're going to have, what they're going to do? They're going to be like, well, California, what do you think about this anime for the global audience?
Yeah, Portland, what do you think about this?
Portland, what do you think? Is this going to offend people in the West? Sounds like they've got quite the machine.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
Going on here. Like, we're getting all the pieces in place, and eventually, I think Tencent's going to come knocking. And I think what I worry about with that is, we're going to have outside forces, censoring Japanese anime. But then the flip side is the money's got to come from someplace. So,
well, it sounds to me like they're trying to make anime be anime, but not just in Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, as long as they can keep the West out, don't listen to California or Portland or Seattle or even New York for what Westerners want. Go by the sales numbers. Go by what's actually selling, if they're going to do this. But, somewhat related.
Yeah, so they're going to do this cool, 5-episode, history of Nintendo thing starting on March 1st on Crackle.
Yeah.
But it's going to have, interviews with Will Wheaton, yay. Allison Hayslip, Ron Judy, Nolan Bushnell.
Isn't he canceled?
I know. Didn't he lose his award because he was a man?
Yeah.
Different people that were part of the Nintendo and Atari and different gaming things.
So this is actually going to be on Crackle, which Sony owned. Now they don't own it, but they still own stock in it.
They minority share and something else. I'm not really understanding this either. But here it goes down here. The Screen Media Ventures is a supplier of this show, and they're owned by Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. Sony, Crackle's longtime owner, swapped its equity in Crackle for minority stake in CSSE at the end of 2020.
Chicken Soup for the Soul. Okay,
so that's right. I remember that. Okay, so its equity is a minority stake, so that Sony is tied to this too. So Sony is tied to this, which is going to be this documentary series, 5-episode series. It's going to be on Crackle. So are they trying to head for Crackle now too? Because
I don't know. I'm really confused by, so Sony's going to be doing, they're going to be doing a docu-series on Nintendo, their direct competitor.
Well, they didn't. Crackle picked it up.
Yeah.
Sony just happens to own part of Crackle.
Yeah, this whole thing is just, it's crazy. Trying to keep track of who owns who is crazy.
I did at one point have a chart.
You can't keep track of it anymore.
So
they have, this is, let's see, Sneed. Sneed is the name of the production company.
Every time I hear that, I think of, what was the show? And there was Snively Sneed or something. What was it?
Snively Whiplash?
No, remember it was they had the long noses. Was it Sneed?
The raccoons.
Yeah, raccoons.
Nobody thinks about the raccoons anymore. That was a Canadian show.
I know, but their Christmas special we used to watch when I was a kid.
Christmas special was pretty good. But they have a 9-year producing partnership focused on gaming content. So I'm actually looking forward to this, but it's just trying to keep track of. I didn't understand why Sony sold off Crackle to chase after Crunchyroll at first. And I still don't completely understand it, other than the fact that they just wanted to, I think they just wanted to knock them out of the, we're going to get all the licenses to all these shows, and we've shut down the biggest competitor.
But they still are involved, because Chicken Soup for the Soul is, Sony owns a minority stake in that.
Yeah.
So they still have ownership of it.
So this is going to be on, Crackle Plus? Crackle Plus. There's a Crackle Plus now?
Yes, there's a plus of everything.
Oh, for God's sake. How long until they have, what's going to happen, right? They're going to wind up having a, Funimation or Crunchyroll Plus that you're going to have to pay through the freaking nose for.
Well, didn't they take stuff away? They raised the prices and then
they jacked the prices up.
And then
they
took stuff away.
That was, I think, the last ditch effort to save Crunchyroll from getting sold because Warner Media was selling it off. So yeah, Sony's going to be the only game in town, guys. They are, and that's kind of scary because anytime you give a company that has been shown to be censor happy, like Sony, you give them the keys to an entire industry. You know what is going to happen. It's so weird we're talking about this because back in the day, it used to be Nintendo was the censorship happy platform. Because they had this family-friendly image, they wanted to be the Disney of video games, and now they're the ones allowing a lot of Japanese games to come over here unaltered, and Sony's the one that they're actually, making all these edits and stuff. So it's gonna be really interesting to see, but yeah, just keep an eye on it because I think they are gonna be the only game in town.
Well, it's their only game, but I mean, they're trying to make sure they're one of the major players.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they already are, but bigger than before.
Bigger than before. So we're going to wrap this one up. Okay, so please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.